In recent developments, China's push against the tariffs imposed by President Trump has come into sharp focus. We're looking at how these battles aren't just diplomatic posturing, they have tangible effects on goods, supply chains, and even the everyday lives of American citizens. With tariffs disrupting traditional trade channels, products on our shelves and the cost of living are coming under pressure. The policies enforced by Trump, portrayed by many as a key antagonist in this unfolding drama, are seen as both aggressive and short-sighted. Meanwhile, China appears to be leveraging its global economic influence, recalibrating trade partnerships, and finding ways to bypass these imposed barriers. Today, we'll unpack the deeper context behind these moves and examine how this high-stakes standoff could reshape international trade. The heart of this issue lies in the tariffs imposed on hundreds of billions of dollars worth of Chinese goods. These trade barriers, announced by Trump, aim to force China into making concessions on various fronts, from technology to intellectual property rights. However, the reality is more complicated. The tariffs have disrupted established supply chains and put pressure on the prices of everyday goods in America. For instance, electronics, clothing, and household items might become more expensive as companies try to compensate for increased costs. Critics argue that these measures have backfired, hurting the very consumers they were meant to protect. As China mounts its legal, economic, and diplomatic challenges, the true cost of these tariffs becomes evident, not only in economic terms but also in the geopolitical arena. This situation deepens the tension between the superpowers, highlighting a classic case of economic brinkmanship where the stakes are higher than simple trade imbalances. China's response to the heavy-handed tariff policies has been both measured and strategic. Instead of retaliating with blunt tariffs, Beijing is employing a multifaceted approach designed to outmaneuver the U.S. policies. This includes diversifying its export markets, investing in technological advancements, and forging new trade deals with other economic blocs worldwide. At the same time, China has been quietly bolstering domestic production capacities, reducing its vulnerability to external shocks. This approach is less about confrontation and more about smart adaptation, repositioning its economy in a way that minimizes the impact of U.S. protectionist policies. By nurturing its internal market while expanding global partnerships, China aims to send a clear message. American tariffs are no longer the sole determinant of global trade flows. With these moves, the narrative shifts from a tit-for-tat standoff to a demonstration of economic resilience and strategic foresight. Beijing's strategy positions it to potentially come out ahead as these tensions continue to unfold on the global stage. The impact on American consumers. As trade tensions escalate, the American public finds itself caught in the crossfire. The tariffs imposed by Trump, designed as a means to protect domestic industries, are inadvertently leading to an increase in consumer prices. When tariffs inflate the cost of imported goods, the price tags on everyday items, from electronics and clothing to even basic household items, inevitably go up. This price hike is not limited to luxury goods. It affects every layer of society, putting a strain on family budgets and making it harder for consumers to access affordable products. Moreover, the uncertainty surrounding the trade war discourages business investment, further dampening economic growth and employment prospects. Critics argue that such policies, while attempting to make a political statement, ultimately harm the very people they were meant to help. In this high-stakes economic chess game, everyday Americans are left navigating a market in flux, feeling the adverse ripple effects of policies that prioritize political posturing over consumer welfare. Analysis of the political standoff. The ongoing standoff between the U.S. and China is as much about political power as it is about economic strategy. In this drama, President Trump is painted as the aggressive villain, whose protectionist policies have not only escalated trade tensions but also deepened divides both domestically and internationally. Critics argue that his approach is rooted in short-term political gain rather than long-term strategic vision. Trump's administration sought to use tariffs as leverage, aiming to force China into concessions that could bolster his narrative of American strength. However, this strategy has backfired, exposing vulnerabilities in the U.S. trade framework and ultimately undermining global market stability. Meanwhile, China's patient and methodical response suggests a level of strategic maturity that might, in the long run, see it come out on top. This standoff has become a symbol of a broader ideological conflict between narrow, populist measures and a more globally integrated, forward-thinking approach to economic policy. As the political narrative unfolds, it becomes increasingly clear that this battle is about more than just trade. It's a clash of worldviews. Looking ahead, the consequences of this trade standoff could reshape the global economic landscape. As China continues to fight back against tariffs, Its moves signal a shift in global power dynamics, where resilience and strategic diversification become key. If the current trends persist, we could witness a realignment in global trade patterns, with other nations potentially sidestepping US-led initiatives to align with emerging markets championed by China. This shift might also prompt the United States to reconsider its protectionist stance in favor of more cooperative and multilateral approaches. The long-term impact on everyday Americans remains uncertain, but economic experts warn of continued turbulence in the market, accompanied by potential inflationary pressures. As global supply chains and trade relationships evolve, the lessons from this standoff could serve as a catalyst for significant policy reforms worldwide, urging governments to prioritize sustainable growth over short-term political victories.